Hey guys, welcome back to Auto Social UK. Now have I got a treat for you. Caterham have been on at me for borrowing a car for literally months now, and finally I got round to it, and what a day for it. It's been constant rain in the UK at the moment, and the one day I choose a Caterham, out comes the sunshine. And I think that's a good omen for today's video because this is the first time ever driving something like this. How am I going to get on? Well, hopefully that's what you're going to find out. So if you want to have a little bit of a laugh of me driving a Caterham for the first time, you have to kind of remember that you have to behave yourself to an extent. To an extent. She says that she downshifts and drops gear. Then please keep watching. And if you do like new car reviews and car content like this, can I class this as a new car review? Kind of not. But if you like car content, then this is the place to be. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. There are currently 9 Caterhams configurable online. This model is the second in the lineup, a Caterham Super 7 600. It gains its name from the petite Suzuki 660 turbocharged engine. It produces a modest 84 brake horsepower, but due to its lightweight, it can actually hit 0 to 62 in 6.9 seconds. There is also a model in the lineup named the 7620, which has a whopping 310 brake horsepower and will do the same sprint in under 3 seconds. So there's a couple of different types of chassis that you can get with the Caterham. This is the much slimmer chassis. It's absolutely tiny in there, but it does feel relatively wide on the roads because you've got the really wide flared wheel arches. This car has been designed to look like a classic car and they've absolutely nailed it. You've got the flared wheel arches, you've got the cutesy little bubble headlights. It feels super retro, and for most people looking at this on the road, of which pretty much everyone does, I can assume that 90% of those people assume this is an old car. Of course it's not. It's a brand new model. But the whole idea of Caterhams is to build a car that takes all of that classic driving engagement and puts it into a new model. You can actually build these yourselves. You have a couple of different choices. So you can either opt to have it built in the factory by Caterham, or you can essentially have a pack, which means you can put it all together yourself. I think I know which one I'd be choosing, especially considering it took me about 20 minutes to work out just how to get the roof on. So putting the whole thing together would be an absolute no for me. But it's fantastic that you have that option because it's already a pretty personal car, but you can make it even more personal by building it yourself. So there's a few different options that you can get in terms of engines, and they all come from different areas. You can get Honda engines, you can also get engines out the MX-5. There really is so much choice, and it all comes down to how much power you want out of your Caterham. This is the perfect starter engine. If you don't want too much power, just enough to have a bit of fun on a Sunday morning, but not too much that you're losing it in the corners, because let's remember, there's pretty much no safety in these cars whatsoever. So when this car actually first turned up, I thought, well, you know, how hard could it be? Yeah, apparently quite a lot harder than I actually anticipated. Joe, the guy from the press fleet, did send me a video showing how all the buttons worked, and I thought, you know, I mean, I drive cars all the time. How difficult could it be? And who would have thought that I would have stumbled at the first hurdle? And that's, well, how do you open the door? You'd think that would be simple, right? But these are, of course, very flimsy doors and much simpler than I expected. You literally just, well, for starters, unpop them like that. And then there's another popper there, very high tech. And then, yeah, that's your whole door. The side doesn't come off, so actually getting into it, that's the next challenge. So there is absolutely no ladylike way of doing this whatsoever. And it usually just, yeah, it's just clambering basically. So, and then you plop. That's pretty much all you do. And then the next hurdle was, well, I can't reach the pedals. I mean, if it's in this position, I'm like this. And the whole idea is that me and Mum were going to go out and take it last night, and I actually had to stop because I couldn't work out how to put the seat forward. But there is actually a lever just below the seat. It's really, really difficult to see. And you push it down, which doesn't seem to make much sense, but I think that's this car all over. And then slide yourself forward. It still doesn't go that far forward. I'm around 5'5", and that's now in the perfect position. But if you're tiny, you probably have no hope whatsoever. And then it's just how the actual car works, because everything is so very mechanical. So if you come in and take a quick look, there's lots of buttons across the dashboard. And I say lots of buttons, but actually by standards on modern cars, this is hardly any at all. And I'm going to take a guess at what most of them do. Haven't worked out what this one does yet. I've just been kind of flicking that up and down and hoping for the best. This one, yeah, again, I'm not sure what that does. I imagine it has something to do with the lights, because a lot of lighting is around here. I did discover that the heating is actually right underneath. You have to lean all the way in, and there's this like pulley switch that you pull out, and then that's pull it towards you and it's hot, and pull it away from you and it's cold. And I discovered that the hard way, because in this sunshine for about 20 minutes this morning, I was absolutely sweltering as it was blasting hot heat at me, and I had to call Bex, because driving Bex has had a couple of these, and yeah, work out how to do it. And then you just have a few other classic dials, and they're just buttons. So you've of course got your window wipers, and again, a little bit random, you've got indicators like this, and they don't cancel themselves either, so that takes some getting used to. And then just self-explanatory, but that is literally it. That is that basic. There's a few buttons for your heaters, few for your fan speed, and a few for your lights, and that is it. No chance of having a radio or any of those luxuries, although the one thing that did really surprise me is there is USB slots. Underneath the passenger side, you'll find 2 USB slots, which is madness. I didn't even pack a cable, because I thought a car that doesn't have a door is never going to have a USB, but it does. So it has those very small luxuries, but I guess that makes it easy to live with for long road trips, and they are possible, because I did an hour today and it's actually a lot more comfortable than you expect. But anyway, you don't want to hear me waffling on. Let's go for a drive. I cannot even begin to explain to you that where I am right now, which is on the back roads between Cambridge and Sudbury, has got to be one of the best well-kept secrets of the motoring world, because the roads around here are absolutely incredible. And can you hear that? It's silent. I've been sitting here for about half an hour now. I'm not where I filmed, I'm somewhere else, but only just down the road. I've seen one car and a couple of bikes that were a bit confused as to what I was doing. It is so quiet, and these roads are amazing as well. So I just thought I'd give you a bit of an insight. I also have no idea where I am, and I've got about 2% battery left on my phone, but if there was ever a car to get lost in, it would be this one. So let's wait for the immobiliser and let's get going. I'm really hoping it's not going to be too noisy. I think it should be okay, because despite the fact that there is no roof and the doors are made of material, it's not actually that windy in this cabin. Of course it's noisy, but that's what you want, right? So what have I learnt in the short time I've been driving the Caterham? Well, one thing I have learnt is you're not really going to want to drive one of these cars unless you're a confident driver. They're easy to drive because they're manual and everything's very stripped back, and I guess it's actually not that far off of a lot of cars that we all learnt to drive in without kind of these safety systems and all the tech that you get on cars nowadays. But what is a little bit difficult to get used to is the gearing. Everything is so very mechanical in this car, and the gearing is very short throws, and also they're quite hard as well. You have to kind of yank them to get them into place, especially first and second gear. It makes a great noise as well. There's no roar from the exhaust. It's not kind of like deafening in the sound that it makes. but it's that flutter that you get after you change gear. It's absolutely amazing. I almost feel sad that I know where I am now and I'm not lost again, because that's the thing with this car. You just don't want to stop driving it. It's so much fun. And a day like today, well, this is what this car was absolutely designed for. It's designed for being a second, a third car. You could daily it if you really, really wanted to. There are people out there that do daily them. But it's just the best for taking out on sunny days where you haven't got anywhere to be. You can just go for a drive, get lost, enjoy the beautiful scenery. It's so stunning around here, and just soak it all in. I also weirdly quite like the fact that I don't have a radio. I thought to start with that it would be disappointing because I'd want to be blaring out the tunes and singing my heart out, but you don't really need a radio because it's all about the drive, and it's quite windy anyway, so you wouldn't hear that much. I'm surprised if you guys can hear what I'm actually saying. But it's not about that. It's not about the safety systems. This car doesn't even have ABS, which can be a little bit scary. You have to kind of remember that you have to behave yourself to an extent. To an extent. She says that she downshifts and drops gear. But you do have to remember that you have to give yourself a lot of time to stop, because it is going to skid, so you can't be silly, you can't be flying around corners when there could be something coming. But when you get a nice open stretch of road, or if you're on road that you know, and you know you can push it around the corners, then it's so much fun. Right, ready? You do have to also be a little bit careful in the corners. It's not exactly the most responsive steering, but again, it's all part of the fun. It's on some really skinny tyres, so I wasn't exactly expecting it to like have pin sharp handling and fly around the corners, but you don't really want to be chucking this into corners at sort of 40 miles per hour. It's not really what it's for. It's a bit more of a cruiser. But just driving this, you get an idea of why people have such strong connections to classics. They just don't build them like they used to. I sound like my granddad. But they don't. And I think I'm having an epiphany. You're watching me real life time have an epiphany. That I'm understanding why so many people kind of sad for the future. They're not built kind of with that heart and soul that goes into them. That's the thing. This is a handmade car. and all the cars nowadays, they go into a factory, and I mean, if you've ever been to a car factory before, I've been quite lucky that I've gone to lots over the last couple of years. And everything's built by robots. There's not really many people nowadays doing the manual labour, putting parts together. There's people overseeing it. And that's not the same with this car. I mean, like I said, you can even build it yourself if you really wanted to. It is just impossible not to smile when you're driving this car. This has got to have been some of the most fun I've had filming a car review in absolutely ages. And who would have thought that it would have been a car with 75 brake horsepower? But that's the thing about the Caterham. It really doesn't matter how much power it has, because it's just all that stripped back driving pleasure that you get from it, which makes it so fantastic. And it's been a pretty easy review to do as well. You don't have to talk about any of the infotainment or any of the safety settings. It's just all about how it drives, and that has got to be just fantastic. But let me know, what do you think of the Caterham? Have you got a Caterham? Please let me know all of your stories and comments about it down below. If you've enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up, and if you want to see more, then you know what to do. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Until next time guys, see you later.